The following podcast is a presentation of This Is Infamous. Listener discretion is advised.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Intelligent Wrestling Conversation, the wrestling podcast that takes logic, reasoning, context, and, of course, intelligence and injects it into the dialogue we're all having about our passion for the world of professional wrestling. I'm your host, as always, Billy Donnelly, who you can find at thisisinfamous.com. Hope you enjoyed the bonus edition earlier this week, based entirely around analysis of the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. Squoze that one in the wee hours of the night before I had to head off to the dentist for some oral surgery. Trying to gut out this podcast as best I can. So if you notice a little bit of slurring or some mumbling, not entirely my fault. I mean, it's my fault that my teeth got into the condition that they are in right now. Had a tooth extracted, not feeling 100%. And as a result, have some, not in tip-top shape to do an hour of talking. But a lot to get to this week. So bear with me. I'm going to do it as best as I possibly can. And hopefully, it's a good show, as we normally do. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fallout from Clash of Champions as it relates to Monday Night Raw and how that show lined up against the presidential debates, the first presidential debate earlier this week. I'll also talk about the direction of SmackDown and what I think are the best feuds, angles, storylines the WWE has going today. But where I want to kick it off is with TNA, who is in a dire situation as this podcast is being recorded, with a lot of uncertainty about the company, the future of the company, the present of the company, as they head towards Sunday and what is supposed to be the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, followed by TV tapings next week. As it stands right now, TNA is in big trouble. Big trouble. And they are on the brink, as it stands, of no longer existing as an active company. We talked about this last week, and I told you that the rumors of the WWE buying TNA were pretty much unfounded. And at the time, they were. That the WWE wasn't going to swoop in and buy TNA or Impact Wrestling or any of the trademarks or anything unless they were getting a sweet deal for a sweet price to buy the main asset they would be interested in, which is the video library of TNA. And bringing that into the fold for them to use on the WWE Network, along with all the other video libraries of past wrestling companies that no longer exist. Whether it's WCW, whether it's ECW, whether it's the NWA, whether it's the AWA, or further back than that. That would be the only reason that the WWE at this point in time would be interested in buying TNA. They don't want to run the company. They don't want to stick wrestling content on Pop TV. If they wanted any of the talent, they'd wait for their contracts to expire and they'd go get them. But the only thing that TNA has of value for the WWE is the video library. And so there had been rumors of discussions between TNA and the WWE. Rumors of the WWE bidding on TNA. Rumors of TNA essentially folding up, shuttering up, closing up shop, with that video library coming under the WWE's control. Now, this past week, we have learned that TNA is in a serious financial problem, dilemma, crisis heading into this weekend. As it stands right now, the company does not have the money to make Bound for Glory happen. And as a result, they now have to sort of figure out how to square the circle that Dixie Carter has made over the years with her business acumen and cutting deals that have now created essentially a giant clusterfuck within the company. Because as it stands right now, there are a number of parties involved in TNA with skin in the game, involved in the financial dealings of TNA that make any deal the company would need to make for future survival not totally impossible, but pretty difficult. TNA owes a lot of money to a lot of people who, as a result of that, have stakes in the company. Whether it's Aerolux, who's responsible for the production of the shows and the pay-per-views at this juncture, whether it's Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan, who helped bail out their financial problems the last time around, whether it is a number of creditors that are owed money by TNA, or Dixie Carter herself, who is caught in the middle. And the problem is that in order for them to do anything, no one wants to do anything that doesn't allow for return of investment. So Aerolux is owed money and has a stake in the company, but isn't going to go forth with production on the pay-per-view or TV tapings unless they're going to get something beneficial to them at this point. And that would mean not ownership for somebody else, like Billy Corgan. On the flip side, Billy Corgan, who poured money into TNA when they really needed it last, is not going to throw more money down the drain if a company like Aerolux wants a bigger piece of the pie. At that point, Billy Corgan wants the company, but the other people that are owed money aren't just going to give up their stakes for nothing. Dixie Carter is going to have to get out of this thing. She has made a bad situation worse over time, and is really one of the main sources of issue for the company moving forward. Now, where the WWE comes in is that the WWE, in the event that a deal needs to be made, would be sort of the last resort for TNA, that would mean the end of TNA. If Dixie Carter just wanted to get out and sort of sell the video library for whatever the WWE was willing to pay for it at this point in time, and ultimately close up the thing she has invested so much time and energy into, then so be it. But that also means that the other parties need to be dealt with. Not putting a pay-per-view on over the weekend would result in a breach of contract with a number of content providers, not to mention pay-per-view companies, cable companies, who TNA has deals with to provide Bound for Glory on Sunday to. So really what you have is a giant mess where no one wants to give anything because it means they get less than what they believe they should at this point. However, that ultimately dooms the company. The company needs money to go forward. It needs money to exist. Aerolux isn't going to put any money into that unless they are going to get return on investment. They're going to get something for the money that they're putting in. Billy Corgan isn't putting any more money in unless he's getting return on investment. Probably a larger stake in ownership, if not outright ownership. The WWE is not getting involved in buying TNA for its survival. They're only getting in if they can buy the video library and get out. So right now what you have is a really shaky situation that we are carefully watching within TNA to see not only if Bound for Glory is going to happen on Sunday, but if by the end of the weekend TNA will even still exist. And it's unfortunate that we're at that point. It really is. And I'm not one of those people that's in favor of saying the WWE should just buy it up and put it out of its misery. If we remember the last time the WWE bought up another company, it just meant bad things for the wrestling industry as a whole. It just meant one less place for wrestlers to go and develop. It meant one less place for wrestling fans to be able to watch wrestling. And it meant one less place to try to drive the best creatively out of the WWE. When WCW and ECW went under and essentially the WWE purchased those assets, it didn't help us. We got a weak invasion angle. We got some people brought into the WWE fold. And we got a real dry spell across wrestling, where competition no longer existed. And complacency sort of took hold. And someone like Vince McMahon could sort of rest on his laurels, no longer being pushed outside of his comfort zone to deliver the best product on a regular basis. There's a lot of really good talent in TNA. Would some of them probably be brought into the WWE machine? I would imagine so. But not everybody. And, you know, what do you do with somebody like Aaron Rex? Or Cody Rhodes, who's fresh there? Or Bobby Lashley, who's really sort of come into his own? Or Broken Matt Hardy, who has reinvented himself and as a singles competitor has probably never been better. Or Drew Galloway, who finally found what the WWE never found in him. So for all the talent out there who TNA has actually allowed them to sort of find their place in the world of wrestling on a higher level, to see TNA sort of close up shop on that is sort of sad. And look, I know TNA has been a disaster for a long time. I feel like it has turned a corner probably since the beginning of the year, but the problem is that the damage of all those years of mistakes and missteps and setbacks hurt them. Wrestling fans who may have been open to TNA close their minds over time. A wrestling fan shouldn't want to see a company like this close up. Just think, what would the wrestling landscape be like if TNA never showed up? Will we know about Samoa Joe? Or AJ Styles? Or Bobby Roode? Or any number of talent that came through Impact Wrestling? Look, I don't know what's going to happen with TNA by the weekend. I would like to think that a deal would be struck, probably with Billy Corgan, in order to keep TNA alive and him to be the sort of driving force of what TNA builds towards in the future. But do not be surprised if Vince McMahon gets in on the equation for pennies on the dollar to get what he finds to be the most valuable part of TNA. Next week, we should have answers because the clock is ticking on TNA and they are running out of time and out of money. This is going to get resolved one way or another. It's not all favorable for TNA. I wish them the best of luck. I hope the Bound for Glory happens on Sunday. If it doesn't, well, get ready to check out that 6-sided ring on the WWE Network in the future months. All right, so that's what's going on with TNA. A dire situation there, as I mentioned at the top of the show. We'll see how this thing resolves itself over the weekend. If I had to predict, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here. If I had to predict what's going to happen, it would be that a deal is somehow struck with all parties coming to the table and Billy Corgan being the majority owner in TNA and Impact Wrestling, with the company's name changed to sort of reflect that changing of the guard, and then hopefully a new direction within the company moving forward to try and reestablish it as something moved past its history, which at times was very much a joke. That would be my guess. We'll see if all the parties can come to the table to make a deal. But if I think that's the best case scenario for TNA, and we'll see how that turns out. Okay, I'm not going to talk about Raw to kick off the show. Not much. Let me talk about it very minimally, actually. I'm going to talk about Raw right now very minimally, and then I want to spend some time talking about SmackDown, which usually we save for the end of the show, and sometimes it gets the short straw in that it doesn't get enough time for as good as it can be at times. This week's Monday Night Raw was an absolute mail-in. Okay, you had the highly anticipated first presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. You're also faced with Monday Night Football for anybody who wanted to not watch the debate and tune into something else. Monday Night Raw was an afterthought. And it showed in the product they put on television. They mailed this thing in. They did not care one bit, either creatively or from just an action perspective. A lot of talking segments, matches that we've already seen before, most notably the night prior at Clash of Champions, with not one but 2 rematches going down. Just a horrible show. Now look, I understand. You have competition the night of. That means your program is probably going to be one of the lesser watched shows of the night. But with people having TiVos and DVRs and on demand and Hulu and whatever, to have the ability to go back and watch Monday Night Raw after the other things that they are going to initially sit down to watch on Monday night, there is no reason whatsoever that you should just give up under the assumption that nobody is watching. And they did. They did. We got another Roman Reigns-Rusev match. We got another Gallows and Anderson versus the New Day match. It was horrible. And all it does is create doubt amongst the WWE universe and fans as to why they are bothering spending their time watching this at all. Because if the company you're trying to support doesn't even have the heart to try and put forth its best effort to compel you to watch, even when they think you're not going to watch, that's it's not a good partnership. I shouldn't be ready to give up on Monday Night Raw because Monday Night Raw gave up on me. Because throughout the show, all you could hear them talk about was what they were going to do next week on Monday Night Raw as it emanated from Los Angeles, as opposed to what they were going to do tonight based off of wherever the hell they were. A terrible effort on Monday night. A terrible effort. Completely lackluster, incredibly mediocre, nothing that you should go out of your way to watch. Cruiserweight matches, you had 2 cruiserweight matches. Probably the highlight of the night. Beyond that, the rest of Monday Night Raw, total garbage. A dumpster fire of 3 hours. Just a horrible show. The people putting together a Monday Night Raw should be absolutely embarrassed and feel shame and disgrace for what they put on television on a Monday night, calling it Raw. That wasn't a television show. I don't know what the hell that was. It wasn't a wrestling program. I don't know what the hell that was. It was a hot garbage disguised as 3 hours of Monday Night Raw because they didn't think you were going to watch anyway. But guess what? You have that slot. You have 3 hours on Monday night, regardless. So do something with it. Make the most of it. Create a moment that maybe will capture people's attention the next day so that in the future, they still make it a point to tune into your programming. What a horrible show. And that even included Sasha Banks on the mic, which I'm always okay for, but once again, just a horrible show. All eyes were on next week. No eyes were on this. And as a result, I don't even know why my eyes were on it. I should have took Monday night off from watching Raw. I mean, I didn't watch it until Tuesday morning, but I should have just not even bothered. Just terrible. Have some self-respect and dignity, will you? At least try. But if you're going to give up on the viewer, don't be surprised if the viewer gives up on you. And the ratings showed, and I wouldn't be surprised if that fall continued next week. Because once people caught up with what happened, you said I would have been better off doing something else. Now, clear from the debate and clear from Monday Night Football, SmackDown Live on Tuesday night, I thought, was an excellent show. Let me walk that back a little bit. I thought it was a very good show. Okay? You had some matches that didn't do necessarily anything for me. Okay, so you had an 8-man tag match, the Usos and the Ascension versus American Alpha and Beauty and the Man Beast. You also had a rematch, a women's tag rematch from last week of a match that didn't happen with Natalya and Carmella versus Naomi and Nikki Bella. The main event I thought was really solid with Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles for the WWE Championship with John Cena ringside. But you also had just some really good storyline progression over the 2-hour program. Okay, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton opening the show and then sort of having a through line throughout. Look, I'm all in favor of through lines. I wasn't crazy about this one with sort of Randy Orton following this trail of breadcrumbs in order to locate and find Bray Wyatt. Some of it seemed kind of hokey. It's also overproduced. So you would see shots of characters that you otherwise wouldn't see. Like, people would know that the camera was there. So in that case, it doesn't really work. You can't acknowledge the camera in certain circumstances and then pretend like a camera doesn't exist in others. So I wasn't crazy about that. I'll give them an A for effort. I give them points for trying. I just don't know that they executed this Randy Orton Bray Wyatt through line very well. Although I do like the idea of having a storyline weave throughout the entire show. But the two storylines that I think, and here's what I'm going to tell you. These are the best things I think the WWE has going right now. Is both title angles for the singles titles on SmackDown. You have the 3-way competition for the WWE Championship between current champion AJ Styles, former champion Dean Ambrose, and former champion John Cena. This idea that John Cena is going for history to tie the record 16 times as champion held by Hall of Famer and arguably the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So you have that story baked into that. AJ Styles is the champion. He cheated Dean Ambrose out of the title at Backlash. Dean Ambrose is out for vengeance in the way that the title was taken from him. At the same time, you have disrespect between Dean Ambrose, who feels like this shot is his time, and John Cena, who has always sort of lingered around the title picture, but whose time left in the industry is short. So you have this sort of testiness between Cena and Ambrose. Ambrose viewing Cena now as a, quote, lazy part-timer because John Cena goes off and does Total Bellas, and he goes off and he does his Fox reality show, and he's hosting the ESPYs, and he's hosting the Today Show, and he's going out and he's doing all these other things that aren't necessarily wrestling, all these things that John Cena previously had criticized people like The Rock for, even though John Cena is still involved. That, I think, is the difference. The Rock just left and he didn't come back for a while, and he was off busy trying to reestablish himself as somebody not in WWE, something more than that. John Cena is trying to do them at the same time. Be in the WWE as a top-level competitor and do more outside of the WWE. So there's sort of this testiness between the two because Cena also views Ambrose as a guy who, even though he may be in the main event, is still not on his level. And then you also have the champion who is defending his belt, AJ Styles, who is phenomenal to steal from his moniker at this point in time, and is the right wedge, the heel wedge between those two babyfaces. Now, look, I love serious John Cena. I think that if the John Cena we have had over the years wasn't always so cartoonish at times, so clearly playing up to and pandering to the children's audience, don't get me wrong. I think John Cena loves being that hero, being that good guy for the kids. But sometimes it is so over the top that it diminishes John Cena's stature in the history of the business. John Cena could have easily been somebody of a Hulk Hogan level. The difference is that as cartoonish as Hulk Hogan could be at times during the Hulkamania babyface run, Hulk Hogan was never dumbing himself down to the lowest common denominator amongst kids in the audience. Hulk Hogan was still sort of talking to them on a higher level that they were able to get. The training, the saying the prayers, the taking your vitamins, all of that was on the level with kids who responded to him in kind. The hulking up was the more cartoonish stuff, but outside the ring, you wouldn't have Hulk Hogan, making poop jokes about people. Hulk Hogan was intense and he was serious, and when Hulk Hogan needed to be, he was vulnerable in order to draw you in to think that this could be the end of Hulkamania. And people responded to that. Hulk Hogan wasn't a tremendous wrestler, but Hulk Hogan knew the theatrics of professional wrestling to lure you into the moment every time. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant isn't a match of the year candidate or a match of the century candidate or even a match that you would put up there as far as your favorite wrestling matches of all time. But you remember where you were when you watched it. You remember how it made you feel when Hulk Hogan picked up Andre the Giant and slammed him. You remember how you felt when Andre the Giant sided with Bobby the Brain Heenan and sort of betrayed Hulk Hogan. You remember those things because they drew you in emotionally, because it felt genuine and it felt real. Over the years, there has been a hard time connecting with John Cena in those moments because we don't always get serious John Cena. I do think John Cena could be or could have been in one of those discussions as far as the influential professional wrestlers of their era had we gotten more serious John Cena. Because I'll tell you, when it comes to big-time matches, John Cena delivers. For all those people who always want to criticize John Cena as having the 5 moves of doom and not being a tremendous in-ring talent, John Cena brings it when John Cena needs to bring it. And you can look over the years at a number of John Cena matches, whether it was CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles or whoever, Kevin Owens, whoever, Cesaro, whoever, Sami Zayn, whoever, Edge, whoever, you will find tremendous matches that John Cena is in the middle of. Right in the mix of. But you don't remember all of it so vividly. It doesn't connect with you as well as some other moments in the history that you hold on to so dearly. Because a lot of the times we got joking John Cena who didn't take any of it seriously. Cartoonish John Cena. Superman Cena. Who was detrimental at times to building those storylines and angles to feel meaningful. But this, John Cena taking it personally that he's being referred to as a lazy part-timer, and John Cena striking back on talking smack about his work ethic and what it means to him and what it means to him chasing Ric Flair's record at Backlash. That's compelling stuff to watch. Watching Ambrose and Cena, two polar opposites of one another, feud with each other as they also feud with AJ Styles. It's really good. This is the type of John Cena program I could easily watch nonstop. Because I think John Cena is really good when he's allowed to be genuine, is really good when he's allowed to speak from the heart, is really good when he acts and talks like an adult. Because it's something that I think can resonate with the adult members of the WWE Universe as well as the kids. Not everything has to be, like one of those bad DreamWorks animation films. John Cena can be Pixar if he wants to be, man. Something for the adults, something for the kids. Many layers. And I think we're getting that right now. We're getting a more mature John Cena right now, and I dig it. We're getting a Dean Ambrose, a babyface Dean Ambrose with a little bit of bite to him. And I dig it. And we're getting AJ Styles, who is going to be able to make his name in the WWE off of both of those guys right now. And I dig it. So I think right now SmackDown has some tremendously compelling storylines going on. Because outside of that main event picture, which I think is actually the second best thing SmackDown has going on right now, which is saying something. What they have at the top of their creative agenda is the feud between The Miz and Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. Fans have bitched incessantly over the years about the devaluation of the Intercontinental Championship. And right now, with The Miz's never-ending Intercontinental Championship World Tour, they're raising the value once again. Because the title is something that people want, that they are chasing, that they are seeking, that they are willing to put their life on the line for. That makes that title remarkably meaningful. Immediately meaningful. That people are willing to sacrifice so much for an opportunity at it. So now, on SmackDown Live, The Miz gets to have a homecoming celebration. With SmackDown Live in Cleveland, where The Miz is originally from, he gets to come out and talk about how amazing he is, full pyrotechnic display. Really solid. And he cuts a promo about what a winner he is and what a loser Dolph Ziggler is, which prompts Dolph Ziggler to the ring. And The Miz, who has been on fire as of late, always been really good as a heel, has been on fire right now as a top fighter. This is main event caliber stuff from The Miz at this moment in time. Cuts a tremendous promo on Dolph Ziggler about how he just keeps losing. About he once was really good and could have been great, but he just isn't that guy anymore. That he is nothing but a loser. And an embarrassment. And talks about how embarrassed Dolph Ziggler should be about what his career has become. What he has amounted to with the wasted potential of his life and his talent and his skills. And what we get is a truly passionate Dolph Ziggler. A Dolph Ziggler at the crossroads. A Dolph Ziggler who recognizes the truth in The Miz's words. And it feels real. And it feels genuine. And it feels important. And it feels like it matters. This is personal issue at its best. It doesn't feel like a manufactured storyline. It feels real. The best wrestling storylines feel real. They feel like something that resonates with us. They feel like something that draws us in because we recognize and identify with it. It feels real because it's supposed to feel real. Because they want marks like you and me and everybody else to suspend our disbelief and believe in these characters and the moments they are presenting. This is wrestling storylines at their finest. What The Miz and Dolph Ziggler have going on right now is tremendous. It is exceptional. It is next level. And it is something that hopefully should take both of these guys to the main event picture of SmackDown Live. Because the result of their confrontation on the show in the middle of the ring is that at No Mercy, Dolph Ziggler will get one more shot at The Miz and his Intercontinental title. putting the only thing he has left to his name on the line in order to get that opportunity. Creating a title versus career predicament at the pay-per-view. Now, there are a number of ways this thing can go. There have been tons of rumors about Dolph Ziggler's future with the WWE and whether or not that'll continue and whether or not he might be better going elsewhere, even though TNA doesn't really seem like a real option right now. And there's that part that makes you wonder, is this going to be the end for Dolph Ziggler? There's that, see, the air of mystery that I talk so much about. Uncertainty about what could happen. Will this be the end of the Miz's never-ending Intercontinental Championship World Tour? Now, here's how I see this playing out. Just hear me out. I'm going to just fantasy book in the future, just for a little bit. Because I think it's going to, if it's pulled off, it's going to make for a real emotional release from you as a fan. Whether you're in attendance at No Mercy or you're watching it at home and you pop from your couch. But I see this as being the opportunity for Dolph Ziggler to overcome. And it's storytelling 101. Let's not forget the previous two chances with Dolph Ziggler defeating The Miz, or with The Miz defeating Dolph Ziggler, rather, relied upon The Miz's wife, Maryse, getting involved. Or at least her spray getting involved. Remember, at SummerSlam... Actually, no, that wasn't SummerSlam. That would have been at Backlash. Maryse sprayed Dolph Ziggler in his eyes, allowing The Miz to roll him up and get the victory. With a rematch on SmackDown Live, Maryse was caught, but The Miz was able to get his hands on that foreign object, that spray, and with the referee distracted, was able to employ it in order to get the victory. How fitting would it be now for that spray to come into play one more time, only for it to backfire, with perhaps Maryse spraying The Miz by accident and allowing Dolph Ziggler to score that victory. Because with the comeuppance, with the retribution paid, with Dolph Ziggler finally triumphing, it's just storytelling 101. The foreshadowing of the spray has already been there, so that when it is now used against The Miz, it will be satisfyingly sweet. And with the stakes never higher, with Dolph Ziggler putting his love and his passion on the line for a shot at the title, to be able to see that amount to something, to amount to victory, that's special for Dolph Ziggler. And it's special for the title. To have a guy willing to put everything on the line for the Intercontinental Championship. Not the WWE Championship, not the Universal Championship, but the Intercontinental Championship. That makes that belt truly important. I love that program right now. I think it is the best thing that the WWE is doing right now. I look forward to it continuing to build over the next little while until we get to No Mercy. But after this interaction between The Miz and Dolph Ziggler, I am sold on this program. I think it is truly fantastic. I am looking forward to how it shakes out at No Mercy. And I hope it is not the end of The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. This is really good stuff. And anybody working in WWE Creative should be watching this feud and taking notes. This is how you get a crowd invested. This is how you get the WWE Universe to emotionally commit. Give them something that feels real. Give them something that resonates with them. Give them something that they can grab a hold of, that they can suspend disbelief of, and take them for the ride. Because in No Mercy, one way or the other, you're going to feel something when that match is over. And that's all we ever want as fans. And that's what the WWE should want to deliver to us all the time. And with that said, I got one just sort of final comment that I want to make on sort of this competition that exists between Raw and SmackDown. And then I'll take the go home cue and I'll send you on your way. These shows are distinctly different. And I know that we have been hard on both shows at times as we sort of allow them to figure out what it is that they're going to do, what direction it is that they want to go in. And I know that we heaped heavy criticism on the WWE as a whole coming out of the draft for what felt like an unbalanced distribution of talent. The bigger names resided over at Monday Night Raw. And sort of the outcasts, the misfit toys, were sent to SmackDown. Granted, you have names like Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles and John Cena on SmackDown, which are a good place to start. But when you look at the name value of the rest of the talent, it was clear that Raw was the talent winner. Raw with their own tag team, the tag team championship with the New Day. Raw getting the future of the women's division in Sasha and Charlotte and now Bayley. But as this is further developed, SmackDown, the show that felt like they were short on the name brand talent of Monday Night Raw, is without a doubt clearly the better of the two shows, the better of the two products. And it really has nothing to do with the time. I know we make a lot of Raw being 3 hours, SmackDown being 2 hours, even though SmackDown now with Talking Smack gets another 25 minutes or so to do a lot with. The difference is in the fact that the WWE has lined up so much of that really top flight name talent on Monday Night Raw. See, the difference between Raw and SmackDown is that with Raw as the perceived A show needing the A-list talent, everything that they do is built around not losing. The show is very safe. It's very protected. It's very formulaic. It's very by the book. Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis is playing not to lose. They don't take any risks. They don't do anything different. They want to keep trying to do the same old, follow the status quo, and not rock the boat. SmackDown Live, on the other hand, is playing to win. They may have less than what Raw has, seemingly, but they are making the most out of their talent because they have nothing to lose. They have wrestlers up and down their roster who have been so discarded, so damaged, so unrecognized over time, that in trying to just throw them at the wall and see what happens in the hopes of rebuilding them, in giving them that creative freedom, that leeway to sort of just try something else, just try something different, they are finding things that connect with people. Heath Slater, who is a joke on Monday Night Raw, a joke as the leader of the social outcasts, is now incredibly over as one half of the tag team champions with Rhino. You watch that 8-man tag match from this week on SmackDown Live, when Heath Slater gets the hot tag to come in, the place goes bonkers. And they have managed to do that over about a month and a half of just dedication to trying something different with Heath Slater. SmackDown is really good right now. Look at the two shows, they're fundamentally different. You look at this week's SmackDown Live, never saw your general manager, never saw your commissioner. There was no Shane McMahon, no Daniel Bryan to be found on TV. Nobody is really caring what the authority figures do on SmackDown Live because it's not a part of what SmackDown Live is about. Their product is about the competitors, their feuds, what's happening in the ring to settle scores between wrestlers. On Monday Night Raw, the authority figures still loom large in the main storylines are what are they doing and how are they reacting to anything and everything. Even with Kevin Owens as your Universal Champion and Seth Rollins coming for him, the focus is still on Triple H and Stephanie and who knew what heading into that fatal 4-way match on Monday Night Raw weeks ago. SmackDown is making the stars, or making the in-ring players the stars. On Monday Night Raw, the in-ring players are supporting cast. And until they sort of step away from that status quo of Monday Night Raw and the authority figures, I think we're going to continue to see SmackDown lay the SmackDown on Monday Night Raw. Talent or not. It doesn't matter who you got in your show. If the basis, the premise, the underlying current of your show, the foundation, the story of it isn't as good. So with that said, I'm going to send you on your way into the rest of the week. We'll continue to monitor what's going on with TNA. When I fire up the mics next week, I imagine we will have a fairly solid and definitive answer about the state of that company. Keep your eyes peeled on Bound for Glory on Sunday. We'll see if that happens. If it does, that's a good sign for TNA. If it doesn't, $9.99 on the network to see all of TNA in the past. All right, with that said, make sure you follow our social media accounts as best as you can. On Twitter, a few accounts for you to follow, at the IWC Show. That is for Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. So we'll let you know anytime a brand new podcast goes up. Also, other wrestling news for you to keep an eye on. We'll keep you informed of that. So at the IWC show. At Tiz Infamous, that's for our mothership, the home base. This is Infamous. So at Tiz Infamous, T-I-S Infamous. Make sure you follow that as well to be informed of all the other good content that goes up on the site. And for myself, for all my random ramblings and musings, my stream of consciousness put into the written word in 140 characters or less, you make sure you follow at Infamous Kid. That's 2 Ds at the end, K-I-D-D, at Infamous Kid on Twitter as well. Facebook, 2 pages to like, facebook.com/TizInfamous and facebook.com/Billy the Kid. Always interesting discussion threads to take part in and participate on. So like those 2 pages and get yourself involved. Want to send me an email of any sort? You can go ahead and do that, theiwcshow@gmail.com. That's theiwcshow@gmail.com. Questions, comments, feedback, send it to me. I read it all personally. And if you raise an important issue or question, you may just find it here on the air. So make sure you include your name and where you're from so you be credited with your awesome email. Podcast, that can be found wherever podcasts can be found. So you found us here for this particular episode, but for any episodes in the past or in the future, anywhere that you get your podcasts from, you can find Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Blueberry, SoundCloud, just do a search for Intelligent Conversation on any of them. The show will come up, and then we ask that you just subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode, and also rate and comment on it. So give us those 5 stars that I think we've earned. Jot down a few words, letting people know what you think of the show. Those just couple of seconds of effort, greatly appreciated by me. So just put it in for me, and I give you my thanks, very much so. Look, you can follow my work on a regular basis. This is infamous.com. Whether it's written, audio, or video, you can check me out at thisisinfamous.com on a regular basis. So check out that content there as well. And look, I'll be back next week talking more wrestling on another fresh episode of Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you have yourself a pleasant immediate future. Enjoy your weekend. I'm out for now. Peace. Intelligent Wrestling Conversation has been a podcast presentation of This Is Infamous.